Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Tinted Visors podcast. Coming at you with episode 25. Today, we're going to do our round one recap, see how our predictions did, talk about some things that went well for teams and some things that did not go so well. Then, we're going to look ahead to the second round, which has already started, preview those matches, see who we have moving on to the conference finals. Finally, we're going to end it off with some trivia. That being said, let's get this thing going.
But I don't be getting my flowers. You really thought she would be sweet.
But before we get going into that, we're going to do card of the day, and in honor of them being eliminated from the playoffs, a card that I got today, actually, we're going to go with the Anthony Cirelli clear-cut rookie card from 1819. It's actually the UD exclusives, so it's out of 65. Really nice design. It's actually got some red in there, and then the foil is actually gold if you can get the light on it perfectly. But great card. Obviously, unfortunately, they got eliminated, but he's great hard worker, great player, adding that to my collection.
And my card of the day is also picked up from today. Kind of a funny card, actually. We have a Phil Di Giuseppe Young Guns exclusives, numbered 42 out of 100. I was just kind of flipping through a box, found this one, had a good laugh with Kenny, didn't really realize I was going to pick it up. Fourth liner for the Canucks, bounces between the AHL, the press box, and in the Canucks lineup. Didn't do much in the series against the Preds. Maybe just hoping for a few more hits, maybe a goal, maybe even a point for Di Giuseppe going into round two against the Oilers. So getting right into the content today, round one recaps. We will start in the East as always. We'll start with the most heartbreaking series for one of us, Florida Tampa. Kenny, tell me what happened.
Yeah, just unfortunate. I had Tampa coming out in 7 in our previews, and unfortunately, it was a quick series. It took 5 games for Florida to take out the Lightning. And just I think they burned out. It was a hard push in the last half of the season for them. They got a lot of victories and really sort of collected a lot of points in the last half of the season. And I think as soon as they got to the first round, it was just quick business for the Florida Panthers. And credit to them, they played really well. A lot of their top guys really showed up for Hagee, Kachuk. But MVP for Tampa, shout out to Hedman. He had 7 points in those 5 games, but I'm going to give it to Stammer. He had 5 goals in 5 games. Goal per game is, you know, very impressive, especially for the guy of his age. Last contract year, so hopefully he does get re-signed. I think both sides want to get that done. Disappointing for Tampa. I think Vazzy, he had some good saves, but he wasn't up to his standards, and he needs to steal some games for them, and he just wasn't able to do that. MVP for the Cats, I have Verhage. Just such a clutch player. He's got that OT winner. Just adding that to the list of OT winners that he has in his career. And then disappointing, I think Bob. He could play a little bit better. He does turn it up in the playoffs, but I think for that series, it wasn't really up to his standards, and he should be. He needs to turn it on for the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, I had that series going to Florida in 7. It was a little shocking to see Florida take that one in 5. And something you didn't mention, I think the Tampa power play could have done a lot better. They did have a lot of opportunities in the series and just didn't capitalize on them. But yeah, shout out to Steven Stamkos, really great series from him. Even Brandon Hagel kind of stepping up, was point per game in this series. But it will be interesting to see where Stamkos decides to head this offseason. He could very well stay in Tampa, but I could also see him going somewhere like his hometown team, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Moving on to the next series, we're going to go with the quickest one. The only sweep of the first round is going to be the Rangers and the Caps. And, shout out to the Caps. They pushed really hard to get into that playoff spot. Don't really think they had much business being there. I think the Pens or Detroit could have made a better series. Shout out to John Carlson. He played 29 minutes a game. That's basically half the game. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't enough to even get a win for his team. But like you said at the start of the series, it was basically just a warm-up for the Rangers.
Yeah, this one is over in 4 and it's expected to be over in 4. The Rangers simply outmatched the Caps, like we said, in every facet of the game. Something about the Caps that may be a bit concerning. Alex Ovechkin, 0 goals, 0 points in the entire series. Yes, it was only 4 games, and his team was getting dominated in those 4 games. However, is a tinge concerning going into next season. This Capital team is in no man's land with Ovechkin, and I don't think they will be able to build around him for them to be a true playoff contender. So there's a few years of mediocrity ahead for the Capitals. Just, the only thing that will be going on is Ovechkin chasing that goal record. Staying in the East, going over to the Hurricane and Islander matchup. This one was over in 5. felt just as fast as the Rangers. Kenny, what went wrong for the Islanders in this series?
I think just the matchup. I mean, getting the Hurricane, even finishing third and getting the Hurricanes in the first round, it's basically like a 1-4 matchup. That's how different these teams were in terms of skill set, I think, and just performance throughout the whole series. Shout out to Varlamov. He had a very good series, 914 save percentage after just getting shelled by the Canes all series long. Dobson was kind of a no show in that series. Only the one assist in the 5 games, especially after a breakout season. They kind of needed him to step up, especially, sort of leading that back end. Just wasn't able to do it. Carolina made quick work. Such depth in, all forward lines, all D lines. Even the goaltenders, they have a great starter and a great backup. They're going to be, they're going to push the Rangers in the second round, but, they made quick work of the Islanders.
Yeah, this Canes team showed that they are a force to be reckoned with, and they're shooting for further than the conference finals this year. They want that cup. And it's backed by one of the best defensive cores in the league. And the depth is, I think a bit underrated, quite frankly. You've got guys like Stefan Nason showing up in these playoff series, getting these clutch goals. And, you look up and down the lineup, we've talked about it. Not going to keep, harping on it. But yeah, this depth is dangerous, and the Rangers cannot take them lightly in the second round.
One piece to mention, just with that depth in the forward position, Jesperi Kotkaniemi had 0 points in those 6 games played. It's kind of alarming just because is signed long term. He has sort of, I think, $4 or $5 million cap hit. They do want a little bit more from him. Not really, they didn't really affect them in the Islanders series, but I think going forward they're going to need a lot more from a guy like him, just stepping up and sort of playing up to his contract.
Finally, moving on to the last matchup in the East, the only one to go further than 5 games, we had Boston, Toronto. Boston taking it all the way to 7. I had Leafs in 7. It was pretty close. The game 7 went to overtime. Pasternak scoring that game winner. But yeah, the Leafs coming up short again. It is the most Toronto thing to happen. Shout out to William Nylander, though. That's one hell of a series from him. Scoring huge goals for Toronto, forcing that game 7 with a big game 6. But yeah, ultimately Jeremy Swayman was too much for the Leafs. We said before the series started that the Leafs would have to outscore their problems, and they did not. Jeremy Swayman shut the door. An outstanding series for the young goalie, and it's looking up for Boston. If he keeps playing like this, Boston could very easily upset Florida in the second round.
Yeah, undeniably the most exciting series of the first round. And I think, if the Leafs had Wall the entire series, if they had Matthews, Nylander the entire series, I think that could go a very different direction. But those are all what ifs. And unfortunately for them, Boston comes out on top yet again in another game 7, again in Boston. It's just history repeating themselves. We're going to touch upon the Leafs when the offseason comes, just what they're going to do with that core four. Something's got to change, but props to Boston, props to David Pastrnak for really stepping up when getting called out by his coach. That was a big storyline going into Game 7. Came up clutch with a great rebound pass by Hampus Lindholm, and Boston comes out on top. They're going to meet Florida for a rematch of last year's first round. Flipping over to the Western Conference, we started with my team at first, and now we're going to start with Caden's team. The Vancouver-Nashville series takes it to 6, but Vancouver does come out on top. Caden, what did you think?
Yeah, I called the sweep, and that was very optimistic. This was the Nashville team had a lot more resilience than I thought. Throwing the body around, blocking a ton of shots, not making anything easy for the Canucks, had one of the lowest shot on goal totals of the first round, which is a bit alarming for the 1 seed. But when you watched Nashville just getting in the shooting lanes, Canucks were still dominating pace of play, in my opinion, for most of the series. But yeah, Nashville, good fight for them. Shout out to them. Hoping that they can bounce back next year. Best player of this series, the MVP, in my opinion, is Brock Besser. 4 huge goals and 6 points in the 6 games, point per game. He was everywhere, most notably forcing that game into overtime, scoring with about 6 seconds left on the clock. Yeah, he was everywhere. Him and Miller were really the two biggest producers of offense for the Canucks in this series. And I am a little bit concerned about Elias Pettersson. Only 3 assists and no goals in the 6 games in the first round. We're really going to need him to step up and show why he's worth $11.6 million against the Oilers, the high flying Oilers offense. Another thing I am a little bit concerned about going into the second round is the discipline of the Canucks. Nashville didn't really know what a power play was, they weren't really using it to their advantage. And now, going into Edmonton, who thrive on the power play, It's going to be dangerous. I think it's going to be big for the Canucks to stay out of the box if they want to move past the Oilers in round two.
Yeah, first thing first, props to Nashville. A really strong push in the second half of the season. Forsberg and Saros probably share the MVP of the series for that team. Besser and Miller had a great series, but I would give the MVP to Shilov's, young goaltender thrown into the fire, and he does perform. He comes out with some crucial wins to close out the series. I'm not sure who they're going to ride with going forward. I think DeSmith is healthy, and I think he's on the bench for now. But it'll be an interesting storyline going into the Edmonton series. But Vancouver, the 1 seed, good on them for getting past Nashville. Would have liked to see them close it out a little earlier, get a little more rest, especially with Edmonton closing it out so early against LA. But they're going to be setting up for a very interesting and exciting series in round two. Going over to the other 1-4 series in the Western Conference, we have Dallas and Vegas. With Dallas just coming up in Game 7, it happened just an hour ago. I would give the MVP to Eichel for Vegas, but I did want to point out a stat line. Braden McNabb had 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. He was a +5, their most producing defenseman of the series. So shout out to him. Speaking of defensemen, Shea Theodore had 0 points in those 7 games played. They really needed him to step up there. Obviously, Hannafin sort of took over that PP1 position, but you would expect a little more production from Theodore on that back end. But Dallas comes up on top, and Wyatt Johnston, what a player, only 20 years old, but he had some clutch goals, and he will be a huge piece for them going forward in the playoffs and for the years coming.
A great series in the first round. It was kind of thrown around that this is like a conference final matchup in the first round. And it's almost unfortunate that these two teams had to face off right away. But yeah, Dallas taking this one in 7. That Braden McNabb stat is interesting. I actually didn't know. He's probably thrown the body around a lot, and he is statistically one of the slowest defensemen in the league. So props to him for stepping up, kind of proving a lot of doubters wrong. But yeah, Wyatt Johnston, the young guy, leading that Stars team to a big series win, and the depth is really stepping up. Their top line center, Rupe Hintz, only had 1 point, and I think Joe Pavelski went pointless in the series. Call those, points of concern for the Stars, but that just really shows if they could beat a team like Vegas in the first round in 7, and those guys aren't producing, the depth is stepping up. And we've talked about it time and time again. This forward depth is crazy, and they showed why they are so good. Winning that series for Dallas in 7, we will see how they fare against Colorado in round 2.
Yeah, you touched on Pavelski not having any points, and it was lucky for them that they still came out on top, but that's not sustainable. He needs to, get his form back and start producing for them, especially being on that top line on the power play. With a man down, he is their go-to guy. So he needs to start producing, especially going up against a powerhouse in the Avalanche. Going over to back to the Pacific, we're going to touch on Edmonton and LA. Edmonton again coming out on top against LA in the playoffs. A little early. I was thinking maybe 6, but did happen in 5. MVP, you can give it to McDavid, you can give it to Draisaitl easily. I'm gonna give it to Bouchard. 9 points in 5 games for a defenseman is just incredible. The past couple playoffs, he has been such a powerhouse on that power play. Quarterbacking there as well as just 5-on-5 play. Disappointing would be Darnell Nurse. He's got that 1 assist for the whole series. Just the cap hit that he has, you would expect a little more production for him. For the LA Kings, Kempe, give him the MVP. And Dubois, probably the most disappointing player there. Again, with the cap hit, he only had 1 goal in the entire series. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him in the offseason, whether they keep him, maybe move him. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's a really tough look for LA King fans seeing Pierre-Luc Dubois, just go ghost in the playoffs when it matters the most. And, seeing what they gave up to acquire him from Winnipeg, it hurts quite a bit. But yeah, Edmonton, the big 3 forwards really showed up. Hyman, Draisaitl, McDavid. McDavid with 12 points in the 5 games. Absolutely nuts. They're on an absolute heater right now. That power play is just doing what an Edmonton power play does, put the puck in the net. So yeah, they're rolling going into Vancouver. A little bit more rest than Vancouver might come back to maybe hurt them in game 1. Maybe they start off a little slow. Maybe that's wishful thinking. But yeah, setting up for a great series in round 2 against the Canucks.
Interestingly, for the LA Kings, I did mention at the start of the season that their goaltending might bite them in the butt, just sort of the lack of true starter. And I think that was the case there. Cam Talbot had a couple games, didn't really perform, and they had to turn to their backup. Either one didn't really work out for them, and they need a very good starter for next season if they want any sort of chance at some playoff success. And finally, finishing off with the Colorado Winnipeg series, Colorado taking it quickly in five. We did call Winnipeg pretenders, but we thought they would at least get two, maybe even three wins in the series. So the fact that it went only to 5 games, pretty surprising considering the depth that Winnipeg had and the amount that they loaded up in the trade deadline. I'm going to give the MVP to the Valerie Nichushkin. Obviously, you can give it to McKinnon, you can give it to Makar, but he had 7 goals in those 5 games played. Just an incredible stat, and they're really going to need that production going down the line. Disappointing for me for Colorado, just Gorgiev. Had a very, very bad first game. He did sort of bounce back, but a 900 save percentage, you want a little bit more for your goaltender, especially when you reach that conference finals, even the Stanley Cup finals. You want a very, very solid goaltender. MVP for Winnipeg, Josh Morrissey, 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points in those 5 games played. Just very solid in the back end. Has been a very, very good number one defenseman for the past couple seasons for them. And disappointing, I think it's quite kind of obvious with Connor Hellebuck. He did say he was playing some of the best hockey of his career, and you can't really blame him with the powerhouse that the Colorado Avalanche are. But when you're giving up over 5 goals a game, it's really gonna hurt you. And if you give up 5 goals a game, you can expect your offense to score more than that to win the game. Not gonna happen.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth for, pretty much every category there. You talk about McKinnon, Ranson, and Makar. They all produce like they're supposed to. They're the stars. Valerina Chuskin, a goal per game, no assists, does not like swinging the rock. But yeah, he had a really cold end of his year. Started off really hot, missed some time in the middle of the season. Came back, was kind of cold, not super noticeable. So really good sign for the Avs that he is producing once again. And yeah, I feel for Hellebuck, but you ran into a red hot Colorado team, high flying. Guys like McKinnon, Makar, didn't want to bet against them. I'm surprised they got this one done in five. And, looking ahead to the next matchup in round two against the Stars. That will conclude the round one recaps. Let us know down below what you guys thought of those round one matchups. That being said, let's get right into round two, Kenny. We'll start back in the East. Canes Rags. Game one did happen today with the Rangers taking it 4-3. But Kenny, what is your prediction for the rest of the series?
Yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't get this out before game one and also after game seven of the Dallas Vegas series, just with some overlap. But game one doesn't change much for me. I still think Carolina has it, and I do think they take it in seven. Both teams are so evenly matched, all down the lineup. Both teams are so deep all down the lineup. But I do think Carolina does have that slight edge in defense and forwards. You talk about the defensive depth with Carolina all day long. I think at every position they could sort of beat out the Rangers, except maybe Fox. But yeah, I got Carolina. It does sort of depend on whether Freddie Anderson keeps up his form. But even if he does falter, they do have a very solid backup in Kochekov, who could come in the series. Obviously, I don't think Freddie Anderson had the start that he wanted. So we'll see what happens in game two. But I do have Carolina in seven.
Yeah, talk about a series. Here we go. We got the Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. This one is super tough. I've been going back and forth between the two, but in the end, I think I am going to take the two-seeded Hurricanes to move on in seven as well. And I think it really is just going to boil down to that depth scoring. I think the top sixes match up pretty evenly. Maybe you give the edge to the Rangers, maybe a little more. They are a little more top heavy compared to the Canes. But yeah, I think those bottom six, when those bottom six lines are out there and, it depends who's scoring, I think that's going to really make or break this series for either team. I think, you could very easily say the top sixes, whoever carries more will win, but I think the games will be won in the bottom six when those guys are on the ice.
Going over to the Western Conference and in the Pacific Division, Caden, it is your Vancouver Canucks against the Edmonton Oilers. What is the outcome you think is going to happen in this series?
What kind of fan am I if I don't back my boys in the second round? I'm going to take Vancouver in 7 games here. This is pretty tightly contested, and I think Edmonton's a little bit hotter, coming off a little bit more rest. That power play's clicking, everything's working. Not to mention that they have the best player in the world in Connor McDavid. There's no denying it. The Canucks are gonna have to step up. They are some heavy underdogs coming into this series, but if Shilovs can keep his form, keep backstopping this Canucks team, I really think this defense can step up when it matters. I'm hoping Pedersen can bounce back, start producing like the star that we know he can be. But yeah, the defense has to step up big. I don't think the Canucks can outscore their problems in this one. They have to play some really solid defense in this series and try to contain the big three of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman. But give me the Canucks in seven.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you asked me this question at the start of the playoffs, I would have given the edge to Vancouver. But just with the way that they played out their series and the way that Edmonton played out theirs, as well as the injury to Thatcher Demko, I am going to give the edge to the Oilers in six. Unfortunate just being in Vancouver right now. But, it's going to be extremely hard to stop guys like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. I mean, you named them all. It's going to be a tough challenge for the Canucks. I do think they are up to it, but Canucks are going to be needing to play their best games of the entire year. And with just the way that Edmonton is playing, the form that they are on right now, I think it's going to be a tough challenge to stop them.
Sticking in the West, going to the Central Division matchup. The one seeded Stars scrape by the Golden Knights going up against the red hot rested Avs. Kenny, who do you have moving on to the conference final?
I'm going to take the Colorado Avalanche, and I think it'll be in 6 games. I think it'll be a very even matchup. But like you said, I think Colorado has had a lot more rest, and they are, extremely hot, extremely high confidence coming out of the Winnipeg series, while Dallas is, a little beat up, less rested. Confidence may be a little low following the Vegas series, especially, guys like Joe Pavelski, guys like Rupe Hintz. But I think, Colorado, their top guys are going to continue to show up. Georgiev is going to need to step up for the team, especially with some goal scorers like Wyatt Johnston, like Jason Robertson over on Dallas. But in the long run, I think Colorado is going to take this series in six.
It's hard to fade my preseason cup pick here, but I think I'm going to do it. And it really just comes down to how these series is played out in round one. Dallas, like you said, they're worn down from 7 games against Vegas. Colorado is super well rested after dismantling the Jets. And, a lot of people had the Jets winning that series. And the Avs, kind of silencing the doubters and showing why they're still a powerhouse and why they're still a cup contender. Super top heavy team, not to mention some pretty solid forward depth. Casey Middlestat had a really great first round, seeing if he can carry that into the second round. And I think it's going to come down to goaltending here. Georgiev needs to step up if the Avs want to win this series. I don't think the Avs can do what they did to the Jets to the Stars. I think the Stars are a much more complete team. So yeah, I'm really looking at that goaltending matchup between Ottinger and Georgiev. And yeah, I think that's going to play a huge role in this series. But for now, I will be taking the Avalanche in 6 games as well.
And finally, going back to the Eastern Conference, we have the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins. Like I said, it's a rematch of last year's first round in which Florida surprised the hockey world and took Boston in 7. Caden, what is your outcome?
I don't think there's going to be any surprises here, Kenny. I think this is going to be, I think this is the easiest matchup for me to determine in the first round. I'm going to be taking Florida in 5 games. It really just comes down to them being better than the Bruins at everything except goaltending. Yes, Swayman is hot, but I think Florida, they figured him out last year. I think they're going to be able to do it again. Going to be tough for the Bruins to score. Their depth really hasn't showed up. And, a questionable series at best from Pasternak. Yes, he scored that OT winner, but he still did not have a great series, up to his expectations. Brad Marchand has been playing well, but I don't think it's enough. I like the way the Panthers play. I like that forecheck. I'm taking them in 5.
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot closer series if Boston had closed out in 5 games against Toronto and just ridden that high all the way into the Florida series. But the fact that, the past 3 games just haven't been their best hockey and that they're going to ride that trend coming into round 2, I think Florida has the edge, and I think it's going to be a quick series. And I'm going to agree with you, and I think it's going to be in 5. Just because, I thought a lot of series in the first round were going to go long, and a lot of them ended up being really short. So I think out of the entire second round, I think this will be the quickest one. But like you said, Swayman is going to be the better of the 2 goalies. And it is interesting because even if Florida does chase Swayman, they're going to run up against Linus Ullmark, who is equally, maybe a little bit worse than Swayman, but still a very, very strong goaltender. Boston is going to need to be playing their best hockey of the season. Florida just needs to continue what they did to Tampa, and they can do the same thing to Boston. It's going to be hard to stop that offense, that defense. But yeah, Florida in five.
All right, that's going to wrap up our round two picks. Let us know down below what you think. Let us know what you think we have right. Let us know what you think we have wrong. And yeah, just let us know what you guys think, what you guys are fading, and what you guys are tailing with our picks.
All right, guys. So we reached the trivia portion of the episode. Caden, I'm going to send you a lineup. This is the playoff team's most recent lineup for their latest game, starting lineup.
Okay.
Okay. This is the last team that each of the players have played for,
Okay.
not including AHL.
Okay. So this is a team in the playoffs, you said?
This is the team in the playoffs, their most recent starting lineup.
Oh, that's the Dallas Stars.
How did you know that? What gave that away?
Niagara Ice
You?
Dogs. Niagara Ice Dogs.
That of all things gave that
I'm
away.
from I go to school in Niagara, so of course I know Jason Robertson.
He played like half a season. He played like
I
half
know,
the season.
but I
He was a
know,
Kings-
of course I know that Jason Robertson was a Niagara Ice Dog.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Wow, that was rapid fire. That was probably the
Oh.
quickest lineup guess I think we've ever had on this episode on this podcast.
So
there you go.
the goalie's obviously Otter, but let's just hold on.
Yes.
The right winger is Stankoven. Is he playing?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I don't even know what logo's in the middle there.
That's a Finnish league.
Okay, so it's
give it away.
Hintz and Heiskanen.
Yep. And then you're looking for the lefty.
The Mississauga Steelhead. Is it Thomas Harley then?
It is Thomas Harley.
Oh wow. Okay.
Wow, there you go. You just knocked them all out.
Yeah, the Ice Dog logo. Shout out Brock and shout out the Ice Dogs.
That took me like the last 10 minutes to make, and this guy just ripped it.
All right, so moving on to my trivia. A little bit of an open. You're still mad. Little bit of an open-ended question here. We know we love our career paths, but staying on theme with the playoffs, you have 3 players. You can name 3 players, past or present, and just they have to have a career path combined with all the teams left in the playoffs.
Okay. I think I get what you mean. Give me Vinny Trocheck. Give me Florida, Carolina, and the Rangers.
Oh, good start.
Is that what
yeah, really good start. Okay.
Give me Ryan Spooner. Give me Edmonton, Vancouver, Boston.
Okay. Wait, really good start. 2 teams left.
Dallas, Colorado. I'll go with my Tampa boy. I'm gonna go with Nemesnikov.
Wow.
Colorado and Dallas.
Quick work of that.
My 3.
I thought that was gonna be way harder. I'm not gonna lie. Ryan Spooner is a pull. Like, what even is that? Like,
that's my go-to puck doku player. He's like always 0.something%. That's my guy.
Oh my god.
We're gonna do a career path, kind of playoff related.
Yep.
I'm not gonna give you his latest team.
Sure.
But the last time he was in the playoffs, he was kind of a funny story. So I'm gonna give you Tampa, Philly, Washington, Florida, and then his new team.
I really. No.
Who do you want to? Who do you?
No.
Hypothetically, who do you?
No. Is his new team in the playoffs? They're not, right?
No.
Is his new team in the Pacific Division? Is his new team located in California?
Yeah.
Is this player Radko Gudas?
It is Radko Gudas screaming into. Was it Matt Murray's face?
I think it was Joe Wall.
Was it Joe Wall?
I think it was Joe Wall.
Screaming into one of the Leafs goalie's face after Nick Cousins scored. Wow.
All right, Kenny, my second trivia question for you. We're going to stick on theme with the playoffs. Can you name who the last 5 Stanley Cup champions played against in their series en route to a cup?
Okay. Okay. So Vegas would be Winnipeg.
Winnipeg is right, yeah.
Seattle.
No.
No?
No.
Wait. Winnipeg, Edmonton.
There you go.
I just looked this up too. I don't know why. Dallas.
Yeah.
And then Florida.
Yeah. Okay. There's 2023.
Then Colorado backwards was Tampa.
Yeah.
Edmonton.
Yeah.
The sweep. So Dallas lost to Calgary, and Calgary went to Edmonton. So that's the other side of the bracket. So then Dallas.
No. You just said they lost to Calgary.
Oh yeah. Fuck. Okay. No. At one point they played Nashville, right?
Is that a guess?
That's one of them.
Yeah, they played Nashville in the first round.
Okay, that's the first.
So there's only so many teams in the Central Division.
I know. St. Louis. St. Louis. Okay. Okay. If you're getting warmed up here. Okay, then Tampa, I better get these right.
2021.
Montreal.
Yep.
The Islanders.
Yep. In the conference final.
They made quick work of Carolina. I know that. Second round, right?
Yeah, Carolina was the second round.
It was the weird Central Division.
Yeah.
Or is it Florida?
It was Florida. Florida
Okay,
in the
yeah,
first. My hint was gonna be you're thinking too hard.
2020, the bubble. Dallas was the final.
Yeah,
The
Dallas in the
Islanders.
final. Islanders in the conference final. Yeah.
Columbus was the first round.
Columbus was the first round. Yep.
Okay, then Boston.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, it was Boston. Yeah.
Right?
All right. Last round, 2019.
2019. I'm not gonna get this. Boston was the final.
Yep.
Oh, Dallas was there in the conference final because Patty Maroon sent them to the final. Or was that second round?
That was second round.
San Jose.
Yeah, it was San Jose.
That's the conference.
Yeah, so you're missing the first round. They were the 3 seed going up against the 2 seeded.
So it's Colorado.
It isn't Colorado, no.
No.
Colorado was actually the wild card, and they upset the 1 seeded Flames.
Is it Nashville?
It's not Nashville. Nashville was the 1 seed who Dallas upset in the first round as well.
Minnesota?
It's not Minnesota.
It's not Chicago.
Just keep throwing it at the wall. Something will stick. It's not Chicago.
It's not Arizona.
It's not Arizona. There's only
Winnipeg?
It is Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Oh, that one took a while. I'm sorry. That was kind of a stupid one, but I thought that was kind of
That
funny.
was fun. Little trip down memory lane.
Oh. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up episode 25 today. Let us know down below what you think. Comment your cup predictions. And, just kind of sit back and enjoy some playoff hockey. Round 2 is underway.
Yeah, the first round was a treat, and it's only going to get better from here. So let us know what you guys think so far. Let us know if you guys agree or disagree. And then also give us some trivia down below. We'll use it against each other and try to make things a little more challenging because I think it was a little too easy for Caden today.
But yeah, guys, that's going to be all from us. Take care, and we will see you after the second round.
But I don't be getting my flowers. You really thought she would be sweet. It's a whole nother level of sour.